Clock, so I will call the meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting? Suppose we need to.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have to do the agenda
Oh,
first. Sorry, that was my fault.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion. Second.
We have a motion by Amy and a second by Kelsey to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, all in favor. Now we can move to the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Kelsey and a second by Lynn to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion has passed. Now we will move on to the petitions. Yeah, docket number BOA 06-18-2501. Olivia,
Yeah, good afternoon.
good afternoon.
So this petition is for a variance to construct a single-family dwelling 770 feet from a registered feedlot instead of the required 1,000-foot setback. And that's based on the number of animal units registered for that feedlot. So some overview of the site. It's in Saratoga Township, Section 11. You can see the parcel there in yellow along Fremont Drive. It's approximately 6 acres. I'll get into the history of the site a little bit, but it was split off as a part of the beginning of this development. So some of the overview of the project, they did go through the CUP and variance process back in 2019, 2020 for this project. It has always been a new residence. There was 2 stages. First, they were going to build the shop and have living quarters in the shop while they built their single family home. And so they went through the process of building the shop, house, as a lot of people call them, and then came in for the zoning permit for the new home and found out that it was going to be too close to the registered feedlot with where we measure that setback from. That's why they're back here today to request a variance from the setback standards. In 2019, it was for a CUP on less than 40 acres, which is the ARC zoning district, and then the variance was from prime soils. And then on the bottom there, that's the project description from back in 2020. So construct a single-family temporary dwelling to eventually be used as an accessory structure and then build a new home to replace. So if we look at the original location site plan and then the updated, you can see there on the left, they had always had the shop in the house. And then when we look at it today, 5 years later, 5 to 6 years later, just based on the site conditions, the house is going to be closer than that 1,000-foot setback. And then when we look at the aerial images from where the feedlot is, the setback from that feedlot is registered from the horse fenced area. So that's the feedlot owners. I think they're registered for 2 horses. So, recreational use. The feedlot is primarily cattle. And so you can see the big buildings there on the top right aerial. So 770 feet is measured from that fenced in area for those horses. And that's because it's all on the same feedlot registration. It doesn't break it out between, personal use versus like use for income, I suppose. Some of the considerations, like I mentioned, it's ARC zoning. It's located along Fremont Drive. They did receive the access permit back when this project originally started. So there would not be any changes to that roadway. They would be basically just putting a new path in from that existing driveway on their property. So no changes to access. They would be required to submit a change of use form to relinquish the existing living quarters in the shop. That was mentioned in some of the letters that we received this morning that you guys have copies of. Concerns with having multiple dwellings We don't allow that in ARC unless it's for farm help or home health care reasons. So they would be required to no longer use that building as living quarters or as a dwelling. And we see that, I mean, people will use it for gathering space or an office space or something like that. It's pretty common. So some of the site overview photos when I was out for the site visit, this is looking off of the existing driveway towards where the new home would be going. It is pretty wooded now, so you can't really get a great context of the site, but we'll go through the photos. And you can see where I was standing on the aerial on the bottom left. So this is looking north towards where that new home would be going. It does slope down, slope to the north to the neighbor's property. That was another thing that got brought up in the letters. They would be required to do an erosion control plan. So essentially they can't create worse conditions for neighboring properties as a part of the development. They would need to address those concerns on site. This is looking west. Again, there's one of the corners of their proposed location circled in the photo. Looking south. And then this is their existing access looking west down Fremont Drive. Saratoga Township did hear the petitioners in February at their meeting. They indicated support and did provide comments saying that they support the variance because it was agreed upon when Chris started this building site 5 years ago. So our recommendation would be that you consider all materials and testimony before making findings that support your decision. Analysis and draft findings do support granting the variance from the feedlot setback at 770 feet instead of 1,000. Should the Board of Adjustment decide to approve the petition, we've drafted 2 conditions for your consideration. And like I mentioned already, there are 2 neighbor comments that we received that you have paper copies of. But any questions for me? Yep.
It said there was a prime soils variance before.
Mhm.
Usually when we see wooded lots like this, that's not an issue. Was that like class 3 or something?
It probably wasn't class 1. Yeah, I don't know if it was class 2 or 3 off the top of my head, but it was pretty much all prime soils, I believe. Yep.
The original number, like 80 by whatever that was at the beginning of the presentation, was that for the building they currently have, or was that their planned size for their house and that also changed? That 80 by 46, is that the temporary dwelling space with the shed, or is that the new space?
That would be a good question for the petitioners. Yep, I can't confirm that.
Olivia?
Yep.
Do you have information about what the recommendations are from the county on the slope? Or what that slope is on that site?
What the percentage is?
Yes.
So it's a 90 by 90 square. If we look at it, it's probably 7% about where they'd be building, 7 to 8%.
And what are the ordinances for building on slope?
So that's not considered a steep slope per the zoning ordinance. They would still submit an erosion control plan to address as a part of their building project, you know, what they're planning on doing with exposed soils and things like that for the site. Soil and Water does provide review and recommendations too. If there are concerns, they are a good technical resource for us to send those plans to get reviewed.
Is that one of the conditions that the planning commission has put in this? Or 2 conditions?
It's not listed as a condition on the variance, but if you would like it to be, I mean, you could certainly add it. Any other questions for me?
Are they putting in a whole nother septic system, or are they attaching to the one that's already present in the temporary dwelling?
I believe they designed the existing system
Like,
for both, yep,
Okay.
when they put that in.
And where's that located on the property?
If you look on the right, it's in between the existing shop and where the house would go.
Okay, so they couldn't move the house over that way further because that's where the septic is.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions for Olivia?
Oh, I have a question. What does relinquish living quarters mean?
So because they applied for it to be temporary living quarters, they can't keep it as living quarters once they build the new house. So that change of use form is essentially documentation saying that they're no longer using that as living quarters. So they can't rent it out. They can't have, someone else be living in that once they build their new house. So their proposed plan that's been approved has always been live in the shop house while they're building the new home, build the new home, then that living quarters would no longer be living quarters.
Okay, so not even say somebody stopped by to visit overnight. I mean, is there a limit on time or?
There's not, no. There's not a limit on time, but it can't be them providing that change of use form is them signifying that they're not using it as living quarters. So they're not having someone living in it as a dwelling. That's not to say that they can't have a family gathering and use the kitchen space and outdoor space and things like that, because obviously it still has a bathroom and it still has a kitchen facility. We're not saying that they have to strip everything out of it. It just can't be used as a house or a residence.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Olivia.
Thanks.
Would the petitioner like to come forward and address the Board of Adjustment? Just state your name and address first for the record, please.
Chris Roth and 14800 Fremont Drive, Utica, Minnesota. It's my wife Elsa. Do you need hers too, or?
No,
Okay.
you're both on the petition, so you should
Okay.
be good. Is anything you'd like to say to us regarding this petition?
I believe, was it Kelsey? You had a question about the shop?
Yeah, I just had a question because it didn't specify at the beginning, the 80 by 46 building. Is that the current space that you're in?
Yeah, so I drive semi over the road. So when we built the house, it was kind of a thing for my business for the semi, and then we had living quarters till we got settled to build a house. And that's the living quarters are only upstairs, half of it.
And
So-
so it's still the current site footprint for the new house is 90 by 90 still.
Yeah, we just did a square because we have a guy that we're gonna use for our plans, but we just didn't go through with it because it's real expensive for the 3D plans until we for sure got the okay to do this. And I'm not sure if I'm supposed to ask them questions or if I can state things.
You can tell us anything you'd like to.
So when we first built the house and we planned to put the house up there, originally the driveway used to, I don't know if I can go point.
You can, yeah.
The driveway used to come more like this, but then the city or township had us move the driveway because they said that the visibility was bad. So that kind of messed with putting the house back a little bit further. And then at the time, it was never documented, but someone stated that since a horse barn was more residential, we thought it was a 500-foot setback. We didn't know it was registered as part of the dairy, so we were going off of the 1,000-foot setback on that freestall building, which I think we still meet that 1,000-foot setback from the freestall. I know there was one comment from the neighbor, if they ever wanted to expand, that might be a problem, but I think they'll still have room from that 1,000-foot on the freestall if they wanted to. And then the erosion, I saw that there were some comments with the neighbors. That's a separate valley. The tires never washed from our place. Our water runs a different valley. I was actually from my dad's place. The ditch has always been there. And one of the issues, the reason there's more water runoff is the township ditch filled in between my place and my dad's, which is just to the east of that. And the water's not running down the ditch properly anymore. It goes through the woods, partway between, and that runs to that valley. But there's always been a dike pond below the valley that just filled in after the years, and that's where some of the erosion through the field kind of came from. But ours, we have quite a bit of vegetation of woods where the water disperses, and I know Amy was out at the site to kind of see I mean, we don't have any big ruts through our woods. I don't know where the water goes after that, but it's a valley, so.
Anyone have any other questions for the petitioners?
So in the letter, that is concerned about erosion, is that on their property?
Yeah,
So the erosion, they're saying, is on their property, and the dike is also on their property?
Yeah.
That's catching, the water that's running off.
yeah,
Okay,
which is a long ways down, and there's a big valley, a ways out in the woods where all the water, I mean, it's been there for forever, and that's where the water has always ran. I know they cleared out a bunch of trees going up to that valley area, and it's more of a water run, which is kind of, I don't know if more water runs now because there's not as much tree vegetation. That's something maybe someone might want to come out and check out. It's hard I tried taking pictures this morning, but you can't see the slope in the picture and it's all weedy. So it's almost something, if they're concerned, I would be happy to show people issues we've seen.
What you're saying is it's not happening on your property.
No, we don't have any ruts or nothing. I mean, it's pretty wooded, and we're trying to keep the woods as woodsy as possible. I mean, obviously there's trees that do have to come down, but we don't want to clear the 6 acres at all. And the driveway for sure will come off of our driveway. I saw there was one comment about a third driveway. We're not putting a driveway off the road at all.
can you show up on where your driveway to the planned site would be?
This is kind of an old picture, but kind of where that dirt, that's a trail we have. And I know, Olivia, I believe is her name. She had a picture standing from the driveway, where the driveway would go in, because the garage doors were gonna be back over here. So it'd just be a straight shot in.
So it'll come off the horseshoe part.
Yeah, right off of here.
So the horseshoe part in that building is where you live now.
Yep, right here.
Okay.
And then we did put the well, I know the old picture, when the well people came out, they decided to move a little bit, from the 5-year plan. So, or permit, whatever it was. So the wellhead is up this way, but we did plumb water under the driveway, and it's just a buried line underground for the house, eventually. And we had the septic set for like a 5-bedroom house, so it was a big enough septic to do that. And then with the living quarters in the shop, we both come from a family of 12, and we always have had gatherings at the shop downstairs or whatever. So that's kind of what we planned in the future. If we wanted to have gatherings, it would more or less just be a gathering place. And then I wasn't sure about, we never ever planned to rent it out, because for one, when you walk in the door to go into the shop, you have to go, there's no divider wall, I guess you can say. You got to go upstairs. But I never wanted anyone, what you want to call it, a residence, or since it's my shop for my work, I never wanted to deal with something like that. It would more or less just be if a family member came down and, wanted to have a gathering and stay the night or something.
So on one of these letters, it says that on numerous occasions that you had mentioned to rent it out. So where do you
No.
think that came from?
Well, I'm pretty good friends with Noah. We both drive truck. And I mentioned to him that my brother, he's a diesel mechanic, and he does a lot of work on my semi and stuff. He mentioned at one time, when you guys build your house, I can come live at your shop. Because my dad lives right down the road. We grew up, all 12 of us, on this acreage. And I told him right there, I said, I don't want anyone. I want to have control over it, I guess I'll say. So I may have said something to the neighbor that my brother wanted to, but I never mentioned that. I never planned to make profit on it or nothing.
So that was probably just a misunderstanding.
Yeah, I feel like it might be something to use against, I don't know what I should say.
And then I thought I read something where you've complained about the smells?
I've never complained about the farm smell. I grew up milking cows. I don't mind the organic smell. I mean, there's been times I've complained about the dust, but I didn't complain about it in a mean way to them. I understand farming's farming. I have called the township and asked them what the rules are if I spray the road, because sometimes I just feel like it's more of a hazard. If there's anything I had a complaint about was some of their tractors do almost 40 miles an hour, and with these curvy roads and they got duals on and they're hauling tankers, they definitely go fast enough, which is irrelevant with the situation, but it's just something that's the only thing I've had to complain about. And we have signs up in our ditch now, drive like your kids live here, because we got 3 little boys, and sometimes it just seems crazy for the speed for a big equipment. But the dust, I mean, yeah, we've all complained about dust, but never in a way to make them feel like they need to stop doing what they're doing, I guess.
So did the county or your township say anything about putting something on the
So
road?
they normally do it twice a year. And I know it's a different township than, like, say, a mile or 2 mile down the road, they got their road sprayed already. So I've made comments like, well, why is their road sprayed and not ours? Well, it's a different township. And Tom Campbell told me last year that I cannot personally put any chloride or anything on the road myself after a certain time of the year, because it can turn to ice or something. I don't know what for ice purposes, it wouldn't freeze or something. So that's all I got. I've dealt with it my whole life. I've lived on that road, so it does get to be a lot sometimes, and it is a busy road, so, but
So if you end up building the house, are you willing to put up with the dust over the
Yeah.
years?
we've already planned to put, dust, what are those? Some kind of a bush to slow the dust down.
It's open from like the road to our shop house right now, but where the house is gonna be, there's trees and it's all wooded right there. It's kind of a little barricade for now. But yeah, we wanna put more up.
And
It's never been a problem where it's more of a safety thing when I complain about the dust. It's not the fact that the dust is going through the yard. It's just, sometimes you can barely see after something goes by is more or less the dust concern.
And you can deal with the smell, okay?
Oh, yeah. I actually,
And you wanna have a good neighbor
it
relationship.
sounds weird. I actually don't mind the smell of farm manure in a way.
Oh,
the
I live-
farm.
I live on a farm in Wallingford.
There's something about just the dairy smell. I mean, obviously nobody wants a liquid tanker in their yard, but it's, the farm smell itself doesn't bother me.
And I had another question. Do you have questions while I try to remember what my other question was?
I was curious, does your family own the parcel above yours? Or do you know who owns that?
So the farm, you mean?
Not the one that's in contention here, but the other one that kind of just is a little bit and goes up that
Oh.
direction, that little
The
slit.
other
there.
6 acres?
Is that how much it
Yeah,
is?
so that's my
Okay.
dad. So it
That's your
used to be
dad,
12
okay.
acres, and then when we bought it, we had to split parcels because we couldn't have 2 dwellings on there. That's why it's split.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
So
my
he
dad.
lives on the other one.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's another like valley ditch there, and that's where some of when they say tires and stuff wash, so we used to have a junk pile back there, but it never washed the field. It just kind of was in the valley, but I actually cleaned those up. I never,
So your dad's runs that direction towards their property. The
No.
slope does, it doesn't?
everything, so where their farm is, everything runs
This way?
towards, yeah, in a valley. There's a
Okay.
valley between, I guess, it's hard to
The
tell
two
on
of
this picture, but the valleys like all run this way. There's an old stagecoach road right here,
Okay.
like down through there. Everything runs that way. So our slope, everything kind of goes through the woods there,
Okay,
because they're uphill from us.
they are.
Yeah.
Okay, so is where they say the tires and stuff potentially would have gone, can you point where they?
Is there
thought they
another
saw them?
picture we could pull up that's bigger on the map, or you want me to pull it up on my phone like a map?
Um,
I think if we get the other picture where you could see my dad's place, I think.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, this is my dad's 6 acres right there.
Okay.
And
But
that's
who
his house.
owns what's above that?
Oh, that's the farm. Jamie.
That's theirs.
Yeah.
So they own both of those pieces.
Up here, yep.
Yeah, okay,
And then I own the yellow, and then dad owns this other triangle.
okay, okay.
So the field here, there's a valley here, and then there's a valley like in here.
Okay,
And so dad's valley, there's a big, it's been there forever. It's just I don't know if you call it a valley, like a ravine that runs kind of behind his place and down, and mine
Okay.
runs some this way and then some that way. But I shouldn't say run. I mean, there's no ditch from my place down. It's just woods. So it's flat, but then I'm sure, yeah, some of the water runs through the woods and then goes to the valley. But yeah, there's probably right down in here, there's always been a pond, because when my dad built an addition onto the house, back in, I don't know, 96 or something. I don't know when it was, but they dug out of that ditch or that pond for fill. So there's always been kind of a dike there. And so then where they were saying the tires were running were down into the field, but really they sat down in the pond area, I guess you could say. And a lot of that stuff when we were kids, I have 7 brothers, and to be honest, a lot of those tires were rolled down. It's a steep hill below my dad's, and we used to get inside the tires and roll down the hill. So some of it's been there for centuries, and now that things have got moved around and whatnot, there's plenty of old bikes and stuff that I've tried to clean up when we see it. It ain't like they've ever had to tell me to go clean up junk. It's not like it's a junkyard down there. It's just a lot of memories, I guess we'll say.
So that field is lower?
Very low,
It
yeah.
slopes down to a field. It's
Yeah,
not-
I don't know if you've ever been on Fremont Drive there, but that road hill going this way is a steep hill.
Okay,
So it's quite a bit steeper. I'm not sure the elevation, but it's,
It slopes in the woods all the way down to the field.
yeah.
okay.
All right. Anything else for the petitioners?
Yeah, I remembered my question over the concern of months, if they ever wanted to expand, then they might run into issues with the distance between your house and where they want to expand. So are you willing to grant them or go along with it? I know you don't do the granting, but are you willing to say, yeah, that, yes, if you want to build a band or,
I guess if I had something to say to that, he's told me that he's bigger than he's got more cows than he wants, and if anything, he wants to downsize. And they have a lot more flexibility, I'll use, to if they wanted to go wide, or they have a lot more options, not just one option. I'm kind of limited to where we can put a house. And I do feel that their freestall were definitely, I know when we measured it out where we wanted the house, we were going off of the freestall. And I know we were past that 1,000 foot. It was like 1,100 foot. So we were never planning the horse barn to be a part of the feedlot dairy operation, I guess. That was something that was news to us this year, even though it's kind of been that way. But I never knew that was an issue with the horse barn.
I was gonna add, when we had this erosion that Jamie claimed that tires and stuff washed.
Could you state your name and address for us
I'm
for the record?
August
please?
Roth, I'm Christopher's dad. I had the other 6 acres. And last summer, when we had that heavy rain, the Red River flooded and several other streams flooded in, I believe, in June. That's when the erosion, it didn't even go into his field. It just went in off of my property into his property. It very seldom happens. It's just when we had that he even had a driveway washout on his other farm that, you know, it's a very rare. But it's not like the erosion happens regularly. It's.
Yeah, and it sounds to me like it's kind of irrelevant to the property that we're dealing with here.
Yeah,
It's more
it's more-
so towards you.
That whatever ran into Jamie's came from my property,
Okay.
not Christopher's.
Gotcha.
So Chris, if there was an issue when you built this planned house that you're planning on, if there was an issue then with runoff, because we can't predict what rain
Yeah.
is gonna fall and so forth, would you be willing to operate under a condition that you would follow, erosion control?
Yeah, I definitely
that?
wanna, you know, when we have the excavating done, I definitely wanna have it done where it's, you know, not trenched running into his place or nothing. I want it done right. I'm not trying to cause a problem. I've always been super generous being neighbors. I mean, it was my great grandpa's farm, my grandpa and my uncle's farm, so it's not like it's just a neighbor that I don't know. I've, you know, Dad was there before he was. I appreciate the people they are. I'm glad they're farming. This was always our plan, and it's kind of a hardship for us to have my business shop there and then all of a sudden find out you can't build a house and the septic's there, so we can't add on to the shop that way, and you're just kind of, we got 3 boys already, so we didn't really plan the shop to be that, and she does homeschooling too, so.
And I know when I visited, you spoke about sustainable forestry with the trees that are on the site now. And I
Yeah,
heard you speak about additional plantings for dust and so forth.
yep,
So that could be something in an erosion control plan as well.
yeah,
That you'd be willing to go along with.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of little maple trees out there that I'd like to hire someone to tree spade them up or whatever, because they're take forever to grow, but yet there's so many of them, as you could see, they're just everywhere, so. I want to preserve the land as much as possible. I'm not trying to destroy it.
All right. I think we're good. Thank you. Olivia, would you be able to speak to what would happen if if the neighbor wanted to expand their feedlot?
Sure. So if this variance were granted today for 770 feet, that would give the neighbor 770 feet that they could be closer. So if they wanted to expand their dairy, so that horse barn is the most limiting factor right now. So if you guys grant a variance from that horse area, they could still expand their dairy up to that 770. If they want to go to 750 and be closer, it would be on them to get a variance from the feedlot setback from a dwelling. So it's really whichever party is initiating the move is the one that needs to apply for and receive the variance.
So they would need a variance to separate the horses from
No, if
the,
they wanted to build any closer than where the horse area is now.
how would it be to, how big of a process would it be to like take the horses out of the dairy in terms of animal units? Or
They-
feedlot?
Yep.
Feedlot.
So they're on their feedlot registration. So I would think, I'm not the feedlot officer, but I would think that they would need to no longer have the horses be on their property. So the horses wouldn't be there, and then the closest point to the feedlot would switch to, it sounds like the barn would be the next closest point that we would measure from.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep.
So I would be looking for a motion to open the public hearing.
I make the motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Amy and a second by Lynn to open the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the public hearing is open. Would anyone like to speak for or against the petition here today? Anyone in the room or online? State your name and address, please, before you start.
14358 County Road 35, Utica. I'm part of the Saratoga Town Board. And he has pretty much gone with everything we agreed with. As far as the driveway permits that we issued to him, seems like he wants to take care of the place. So I feel like that's why in our letter of recognition, we really supported it. So we just feel like he's going to take care of it. So that's pretty much all I have to say. But I live just down the road from him, so I don't have no complaints. I know there's been a little quarrel between these two. I hear it from one side. I don't take sides, but when we did the knowledge on notice, we felt that it was stated in there that he planned on building a new house in 5 years, so we thought we'd stick with our plan, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against the petition? I don't believe there's anyone else in the room, if there's anyone online. As for the third and final time, if anyone would like to speak for or against the petition, please come to the microphone now. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion, to close the public hearing.
All right.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Amy and a second by Lynn to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Public hearing is closed. Any discussion?
So I'm just looking at these letters, just to kind of get in my head. Months are the ones with the freestyle bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we know who copies or where their land is?
If you'd like, you can have him come, or Olivia come to the microphone.
Sure.
Yeah, just come up here, please.
So you had a question who the Noah and Rachel are?
Yeah, where is?
So Rachel is Amy and Jamie Munt's daughter. She married Noah Cock. They live across the road to the south. So they're just related, a daughter to Amy and Jamie.
Right.
The property doesn't run to theirs at all. Just a neighbor.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds like, and from looking at the pictures, that their concerns about taking agricultural land away doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, this doesn't really strike me as
Very
ag
wooded.
land. Yeah.
Very wooded. Unless they're gonna do timber, they're not farming that, so. I guess. Should have asked. Do you guys, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna ask a quick question.
Yeah, you
On
can
your
come back.
shop, do you have gutters or like where does
Yeah.
the water run off of your shop?
In all four corners, when we built it, we didn't want to just do one corner, so we have all four corners and the which would be the southwest side runs to the west. And then on the southeast side, we have a concrete big pad and there's a gutter there and it runs underground and then disperses through the yard, through the woods. It's not a ditch. And then on the back side, we have a big garden and there's actually a fence and it disperses through the backyard on the top side of the garden.
So with that heavy rain that they say like had all that erosion, nothing happened on your property with
No.
all that rain off of the building you currently have? Okay,
We don't have any ruts or nothing. I mean, we have trails through our woods and once in a while there'll be a little
sure,
just from the tire tracks of the rangers and stuff.
okay. Thank you.
Well, I know we're only hearing one side, but it would sound like questions that were raised in these letters were kind of like.
Well, I wish,
Sour grapes.
I don't understand their talk about the tires. It sounds like that wasn't quite where I'm thinking their letter is concerned about. So I wish they were here, but I didn't see any tires. I didn't go all the way down in the woods. I didn't see any ruts. I didn't see any erosion around the building or the building site. Naturally, when there's going to be excavation for another building, there will probably be some runoff, but it sounds like Chris is agreeable to conditions to make sure that that is not a problem.
I would make a motion to approve the variance with the third recommendation that Amy had for.
We should nail down that, third condition quick then. Olivia, would that be like a SWIP or something?
I would say that so SWIP is more of a state requirement, so it's a pretty intensive plan. If you wanted to do something that was approved by the department, we've had language in the past that says petitioners submit an erosion and sediment control plan that gets reviewed by Winona County Soil and Water Conservation District and then approved by the department prior to a development certificate being issued.
Does that language sound good to you?
Yes, I think that sounds very professional.
Great.
So we would need a motion to add that third condition.
I make a motion to approve the third condition as stated by Olivia.
Do you have a second on that?
I'll second.
So we have a motion made by Amy and seconded by Kelsey to add the third condition as stated by Olivia. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, hearing none, that is added. Now we can move along with the recommendation here. Would you like to, want to remake your motion or amend
Sure.
for that?
Make a motion to approve the variance with the three conditions listed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Kelsey and seconded by Lynn to approve the petition with the added third condition. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None opposed. So that passes, and I will read this. All decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department, board, or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after receipt of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision rendered at the public hearing must do so to the district court. Planning and Environmental Services is not responsible for filing the appeal or obtaining representation by counsel for the petitioner. All right, that is that. The last thing on the agenda would be adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Amy, seconded by Kelsey to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We are adjourned.
Thanks, Jordan. When are you gonna make it for